I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investment Pitch Media and Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Kyle Chasse, the CEO of Paid Network. Kyle, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time to be here today.
Thanks, Ashton. Good to be here, man. Appreciate the time and looking forward to it.
Likewise, I'm really looking forward to our discussion. I'd love to just kick it off with a little bit of your background on yourself, how you got into Bitcoin and the blockchain space, and then what led you up to starting Paid Network.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been a serial entrepreneur my entire life, and like forever since I was in middle school. Started my first business, and I had a company. I've always kind of designed my companies based on first discovering some type of passion and interest, and then studying that for a while, and then kind of figuring out how I can create or monetize that. And that's how I've done everything in the past. And so before crypto, I had a company called Reverse Aging Institute. It was a regenerative medicine, anti-aging, very, very forward-thinking kind of progressive medical consulting and life coaching kind of practice. And my clients were high net worth individuals. And I built out this protocol with this billionaire the year before, and doing a bunch of research and meeting the top scientists and doctors in the world. And at the same time, when I was building that, I discovered Bitcoin in 2012. And by 2013, I was completely obsessed and completely understood exactly the potential it had. And it's something that I had been kind of looking for a long time. As a U.S. citizen, I always was frustrated by the way that the system worked, the corruption, and the way that the things were set up. Like, I never voted, and I kind of always felt like that was a waste of time, just because, because I knew that it didn't really matter. Like, on a grand scale, it didn't really matter. But when I discovered Bitcoin and its ability to kind of circumvent the powers that be, I realized that there was a tremendous amount of potential, and that's where I needed to dedicate my time and my career to. So I sold my company, Reverse Aging Institute, and put all the proceeds and any fiat that I had into Bitcoin in 2013. And started building as well at the same time. So I started building World Super Lotto, which is the world's first Bitcoin-based lottery, in 2013. Launched it in 2014, and that went until 2015. I put all my videos up on YouTube. I did 2 live drawings a week, and and had all my the thread on Bitcoin Talk Forum, and that's what was kind of my intro into Bitcoin and crypto, and then in 2000. Late 2014, started diversifying the appreciation into different investments into what we called back then was just fintech, but today it's all blockchain investments. So then went into the Ethereum ICO as well, not the ICO, but I was in at like $1, and then and started diversifying the appreciation from both Bitcoin and Ethereum into different infrastructure investments. So I invested in a lot of early projects like Kraken and Coinbase and Ripple, Circle, Abra, Bitfinex, Bitstamp, Bitso, and pretty extensive list of different investments. And in 15, joined a project called Credits, a team out of Isle of Man, and then took that into 2016 when I left for disagreement reasons of the project, and then 2016-17, I took some time out from being actively involved in the space to more just passively observing and investing a bit still, but I wasn't building anything. And I also kind of thought that maybe that was the first time in my life that I could retire if I wanted to, and I kind of played around with that idea, but I got incredibly boring and realized that that's something I never wanted to do. And then in 2017, I became very concerned about the way the space was developing. Like before 2017, everybody I met in the space was in it for disruption. They really understood it. They were really exciting. Like everybody, there wasn't too much talk about becoming rich or anything like that. It was more about, building disruptive things. And that's what I really enjoyed. And then 2017, we started getting a lot of convolution in the space, and people really kind of spreading misinformation. And then all the conferences went from like t-shirts to suits and things like that, and then you started hearing things like, like blockchain not Bitcoin, or STOs not ICOs, and things like that, and that really concerned me because I felt like it was intentional propaganda coming from people who felt threatened from Bitcoin and disruption. So in 2000 and before, at that time too, I also was still living in the United States, and I felt like because the US dollar was the thing that was threatened the most, it would maybe be dangerous for me to be very outspoken about the topic. So in 2018, I left the States, and then decided to become more public in the space and started doing a lot of public speaking. I've done a lot of keynotes and panels and things like that. And also at the same time, I was heavy on the conference circuit from late 2017 all the way up until pandemic time. So, but early 2018, I started advising projects. And so Master Ventures was born, which is like the parent company. And we advised and incubated quite a bit of projects and did a lot of different things for them, like token economics, monetary fiscal policy, marketing, go-to-market strategy, fundraising, things like that. So I have a lot of experience, and my team has a lot of experience in bringing projects to market. And in 2019, I felt like I really wanted to focus to slowly switch over to venture studio model and start building out the projects that I had in my mind. And so the 2019 was a process of phasing out the advisory from so actively involved to more starting to create our own ideas internally. And in 2020, Paid was born, and this was like just an idea of looking at the most the most inefficient systems that we still have to deal with today, and then looking how to make them more efficient using a decentralized system and economy. So that's kind of leads us up to where we are today.
That's great, Kyle. And yeah, that's quite the extensive history, and studying Bitcoin in 2012, 2013, and just going all in. I had that similar feeling where you could just see the potential, and it's still in its infancy, but it's grown a lot since then. And just to go through all these years, it feels like decades, because there's so much happening in crypto all the time, even though it's only been really less than 10 years that most of us have been in it. And that now leads you to Paid Network. And yeah, talking about inefficiencies and the industries that have the highest costs and lowest value, I think the legal industry has a lot of convolution in it right now. And that sort of leads you to solving these problems with blockchain. So if you could jump into what is the Paid Network's main goals, the problems that you're focused on in the legal industry, and how are you implementing that with blockchain?
Yeah, so we wanted to kind of shift our messaging to more, initially it was more like really focused on kind of coming after or disrupting the legal industry. But we realized that kind of we want to more focus on the fact that we are like a business suite of technologies that really help make entrepreneurs and enterprise and small businesses more effective, and being able to create different create agreements with people, being able to enforce those agreements, or if there's a dispute should arise, to be able to resolve that dispute in a quick and efficient way that's not expensive, and then also being able to use DeFi tools in order to lock money into an agreement. Should a dispute arise, and the arbitrators can come in and look at the evidence that's uploaded, and then easily be able to award whatever money is at stake to the party that deserves it, or they feel like deserves it. So basically, the whole thing starts out with looking at what the current system looks like, and then how can we make it more efficient for today's needs. And the very first thing that we do when we enter into business with somebody is we usually sign agreements. These agreements are usually double digits pages long that are extremely complicated and written by lawyers to be understood by lawyers. And none of us really feel comfortable in understanding the complexities and nuances of these agreements. So we think that most people, 95% of business agreements were really people who just want a handshake deal to be honored. And it's simple. You want me to build you a website. I tell you it's going to cost $5,000. We understand that it should be like 5 different pages, and it should be done, in 2 weeks or whatever the case may be. Like none of this discussion back and forth requires complex, complicated legal language. It's all very basic layman's language. And if we met in person and we trusted each other, we would just handshake on that and deliver. And that would be the end of it. So we're creating what we're calling like smart agreements, which are like massively simplified agreements, which are written in layman's terms, which are meant to be understood by both parties involved and by anybody who should look at the agreement should a dispute arise. So any type of person that's looking at should easily understand what the intention of this agreement was, and if there's a dispute, how or how they can make a decision based on the evidence uploaded by the counterparties. So the first process is creating very standardized and simple agreements to make it very easy, that are pre-populated and signed on the app, signed on chain. That's the first process. And then the second one is, should a dispute arise, instead of having to go and retain attorneys that are hundreds of dollars an hour and go dispute that in court, we can do that on the platform. And this is really interesting too, because we all know now that when we sign these agreements, there's always that line that says, the laws of this agreement shall be governed by the jurisdiction of Cayman Islands or Panama or Seychelles or China, whatever. And it's usually not where we're located, and it's usually not in any type of location where, if a dispute should arise, we're going to actually physically fly there, retain attorneys, and none of us have the time or money to go and enforce these things. So if a counterparty should violate the terms of the agreement, what are we going to do? If that agreement's less than $1 million, it's not worth going after. So most of us still spend a bunch of money on attorneys to create these contracts that really are useless at the end of the day. And this all came from my personal experience dealing with the legal system and the court system and trying to sue somebody, and realizing, like, I've got one case that we started in 2016 that's still going today, almost 5 years later, still in court, having spent, close to $200,000 at this point. And I would just not wish this on anybody. And this is how the court systems work. In India, it's backed up 1,000 years. It's just an incredibly inefficient process. So now so you take that now, that same process and take it cross borders, because we're all doing now cross border business. And it makes it even more impossible to go after somebody if they violate the terms of the agreement. And then even if you were to win a lawsuit, you still have to try to collect the funds. So this process becomes a nightmare. And most people don't have the ability. So if someone violates the terms of the agreement, you can't go after them. So we're making it a whole ecosystem where you can have an agreement that's done quickly and simply, that's borderless. It's meant to be arbitrated within the paid network. And it's really going off of just kind of common sense, most disputes should be able to be understood in a common sense kind of way, who was right and who was wrong in a disagreement. So, and then we have DeFi tools, and I think it's really interesting that we're actually bringing DeFi tools to a real world use case, whereas most DeFi projects are just about, yield and very, very financially focused on that. That's what the product is. So we're using DeFi tools have been created to bring them to a real life, real world use application. So for example, if I'm building you that website, it's going to cost $10,000. I can ask you to put the money in escrow before I begin work. And if you put the money in escrow, I deliver you the website, you're happy with it, you release the money from escrow, and we're both happy. And then we can leave each other feedback too. So every user in paid will have a reputation score and a profile tied to their digital identity and biometrics. And I think this is really important too. We don't have a system right now that exists where we can see the history of people doing business, much like if you've used local Bitcoins or Paxful or something. You can see, the statistics on there of a user's profile give you an idea if you feel comfortable going and meeting with that person with a bunch of cash, for example, in some location, and so you can see the person's experience, how much business they've done with people and, different places. And then what the feedback was like from the counterparty on the agreement that they did. So I think this is really important. Imagine if LinkedIn had a reputation scoring system where we can see, we're about to do business with someone, we do due diligence, and we can see, how many deals they've done with other people in the paid network. Did they successfully execute them or not? Did they pay them or not? These kinds of use cases. And then we'll also have insurance as well. You can insure your deals. So one example is like I had a client that was in oil and gas. They wanted to do an STO. I don't know how to do STO, so I referred them out to a Hong Kong entity. I had a referral agreement with them, and the value of that agreement was $200,000. And if I could have taken out an insurance policy on that deal, it would have made sense for me to do that. Even though I had to pay $20,000, $25,000 for an insurance policy, it would have been worth it for me, a peace of mind, and to make sure that I'm going to get paid on this deal, because I'm handing them over a very valuable asset, my client. So in this example, they did the STO and they didn't want to pay me in the commission that they owed me, and that's $200,000. That's actually $250,000. And so in this example, if I had an insurance policy on this deal, not only would I have left them bad feedback and everybody would have known that they didn't pay out on the agreement that they were supposed to, but also I could have filed an insurance claim and gotten paid, and that would have been much cheaper than trying to go and hire attorneys and litigate the case in Hong Kong, for example. Not only would have been cheaper, but it would have saved. But that insurance policy, it would have taken me a couple hours to probably submit, and it would have saved a ton of time. So like this is the whole thing of Paid Network, is to save businesses and entrepreneurs tons of time and energy and money on agreements and dispute resolution, and then using DeFi tools to make these things actually be able for everything to be able to work. And then ultimately we'll create a marketplace as well. So like a Fiverr or Upwork, but right now if I want to bring on a CTO, for example, I have to go hire a headhunter or something like that. We kind of have to rely on their due diligence and then still call out and refer referrals and things like that, or a marketing company. Everyone knows that it's hard to find a good marketing company in crypto, for example. But if we had Paid Network in a marketplace where we could see their feedback and reputation and things like that, it would make it a lot better. So people can go and look for people on the marketplace that we'll build. They can go and do agreements with them. They can do escrow or insurance, things like that. So we're building an entire business toolkit, basically. And yeah, we're building it on in the Polkadot, Ethereum and Polkadot environments. We're big believers in Polkadot, and excited for that to come to markets, come February when they launch their parachains. And that's kind of the high level of Paid.
Yeah, that's great, Kyle. And yeah, I really find it interesting because in the inception of Ethereum smart contracts, there's talk about how smart contracts can automate the legal system and make it easier. But now with the growth of decentralized finance, there's even more incorporated into that. And also with Paid Network incorporating the Polkadot ecosystem with cross-chain into Ethereum as well, I think that's going to help with interoperability and just growth of the network as the whole blockchain ecosystem continues to grow into the mainstream. And we don't have a lot of time for the interview, so I want to dive into the ecosystem. And I know that there's native currencies built into the ecosystem as well, and there's also the paid token. Can you talk about the main functionality of the paid token within the legal system and how it creates a sustainable ecosystem as well?
Sure. So yeah, we have a lot of experience doing economic models, and we feel like that's one of the most important things in building a decentralized network. Is you're building a nation, basically. So you have to think about things like governance and treasury, sustainability. How do you continue operating expenses even after you run out of your initial funding? So we have done these models for people like Elrond and Ultra before, and we really understand how they work. And so we have one of the most complex and thorough economic models that I've seen out of any project. But we have several different use cases to bring in value to the Paid ecosystem. We don't value equity at Paid. I don't really believe in the fact of a dual model where you have equity and tokens. I believe that's like running two companies at half-ass. If you're going to bring value into an ecosystem, you need to make sure to bring value into what the people are investing in and what people want, what your investors are paying for, basically. So all the value that comes into Paid will always be adding value to Paid token holders and token ecosystem to increase, the market cap and the size of the network. So there's a lot of different use cases. One of them, the most basic, is your subscription model. So to use the system, to use these contracts and sign them and use the whole thing, there's a monthly subscription model. Obviously, you pay more for more access to more contracts and agreements. We have different staking models, like the arbitrators will need to be the highest staking level, much like a masternode, for example, and it goes off of game theory, assuming that they're going to do the best of their efforts to make sound decisions based on disputes, based on the fact that the value of their stake, is at stake. So basically, arbitrators have a lot of money at stake. We also have burning mechanisms. So, for example, if somebody wants to pay for their subscription in fiat using a credit card, we will allow that. But let's say that it's $50 a month. We will take that $50, buy pay tokens off the open market to create buy pressure, and we will burn 25% of the tokens that we buy. 25% goes back to staking rewards and 50% to treasury for operating expenses. We will eventually become fully decentralized in a DAO structure. So we want to make sure that managing members always have funds to continue operations, for salaries, for marketing, things like that. And there's staking rewards for just for things like the DeFi tools. We have a open lending and borrowing market. We have the insurance, so you can contribute to the insurance pool as an LP. You can lend for borrowing and lending for people that might need money in escrow. Let's say that I start a company or a token project that I need to hire 5 advisors and pay them each $20,000 flat fee, and they want an escrow, but I haven't raised money yet, so I can borrow from the P2P lending and borrowing market. Based on my reputation score will also double as a credit scoring system. So if I have a good history of paying people off, I can probably get a loan at a lot lower interest than if I don't have a history. So these are all different ways that people can use Pay Token in order to participate in the ecosystem. And there's more, but I know that we're limited on time.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's a lot of functionality, and I like what you said about having equity in tokens is sort of half-assed, and if you're going to go all in, then you want the token holders to be rewarded and to be a part of the ecosystem.
I think one more thing that I think is incredibly valuable too. One of the interesting things about the marketplace that will allows an opportunity for advertising to come in, and I think that when you start talking about ad revenue. Even if, let's say that we had someone like LinkedIn or something that wanted to come do ads on our platform, even if they paid in US dollars or whatever, we would still do the same thing. Let's say they paid $50,000 a month for ad placement. We'd still take that $50,000, buy tokens off the open market, burn 25% of them, 25% staking, 50% to treasury. And let's say that we eventually become very popular and get $500 million a year in ad revenue. That's $500 million a year that's added to the market cap of Paid Network. And I think this is incredibly valuable versus a lot of projects that you see that would take that revenue and add it to equity holders. For example, ours goes directly to, the token.
Definitely. And you're with the leading towards the launch of Paid Network, there's also the Paid Token launch as well. Can you talk about what is the timing, when is that happening, and what are the details around that?
Sure. So we are currently doing private sale, and public sale is we're probably going to do it on Polkastarter in mid to late January, and we're also another really exciting thing too, not related to the launch at all, but we just recently brought in Lawrence Hudson, who will be our CTO, who was also he's a CTO that founded Travelocity. So really excited about bringing him on board. He's really excited to be part of the team. And our private sale has really recently really taken off the past week or something. We have a lot of requests on our whitelist. I think almost $6 million, and our raise is only $2.27 million. But we're looking for strategic value add partners right now, people that can help. We've been really selective on who we bring in so far, and that's what we're looking for now. We still have some room in our private sale, but we would like strategic value add investors to come in that can really help us grow this thing.
Definitely. It's all about the added value. And if those members or just community members that are looking to follow along for the launch of the public sale and the launch of Paid Network, what's the best way to get involved in the community?
Join our Telegram, Paid Network, and also Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter. We also have our Medium article. So hopefully you can post all the links, in this video, and people can follow, check us out.
Definitely, yeah. I'll add those links in the description box below for the viewers. That's all the time that we do have for the interview, but it's been a pleasure learning about Paid Network, and it sounds like you guys have a lot on the go, and I'm excited to see the launch in early 2021, and I'll follow along, and let's follow up in the near future after that happens.
Thanks, Ashton. Appreciate it, man.